Now, to make our Concord Grape Jam wine, we're using the following. I have two 30-ounce containers of Concord Grape Jam. I'm going to be using 2 cups of sugar. I need 1 packet of regular bread yeast, which is going to act as both our yeast nutrient and fermenting yeast. To provide a little bit of tannin, we'll be using 1 black tea bag. To provide a little bit of acidity, we're going to be using the juice of 1/4 of a lemon. We need to have at the ready 1 gallon of clean filtered water. To do our initial fermentation, we'll need a 1 gallon, or in this case 4-liter, jug, carboy, demijohn, or in this case, recycled wine jug. We'll need an airlock with bung. The airlock, of course, is to allow CO2, which will be produced by the fermentation process, to escape and keep little bugs from getting in. Whereas having 1 jug is good, having 2 is even better. Over the course of the next several weeks, all that yeast that's in our primary ferment, it's going to start dying off and settling to the bottom. So we might want to periodically rack or transfer the wine from our 1 container fermenter into our secondary container fermenter. We'll need an 8-quart pot. Having a hydrometer with testing tube would be helpful, though it's purely optional. It's going to help us to determine what our starting gravity, what our ending gravity, how much alcohol has been produced in our wine. And of course, we want to make sure that all of our equipment has been properly cleaned and sanitized, whether it's One Step, Star San, or whatever other food grade sanitizer of your choice. Just make sure you follow a manufacturer's recommendation for usage. This is what we're going to be using to make this wine. Of course, you can find Amazon links for all of the equipment that's being used here in the comment and description sections of the video. So let's get started. All right, we're going to start this one right in the kitchen. Since we don't have to prep any fruit or anything, we're going to go ahead and take about half of our water, put it in the pot. Roughly half. No need to be precise. We will be making adjustments later on. And we want to put our lid back on. And we want to bring this up to a boil. All right, now that our water has come to a nice rolling boil, we can do a couple of things. One, we want to take half a teaspoon of our bread yeast, which is going to act as our yeast nutrient, and we're just going to go ahead and add that to the mix. Putting it in boiling water will have the effect of killing off any of the yeast, which is necessary for the yeast to act as a yeast nutrient to the live yeast we're going to be putting in later. We can go ahead and turn off the heat. We don't need that anymore. And while we're at it, we can go ahead and move that out the way temporarily. We can go ahead and let's go ahead and add in our sugar. Hate to kind of just dump it in there like that, but it's not easy doing all this behind the tripod. Let's go ahead and incorporate that. And now would also be a good time to go ahead and start adding in our Concord Grape Jam. Would be nice if we just kind of pour it out or just glopped out or glooped out, but it won't. So we got to go ahead and manually scoop it out. I'm not concerned about getting every single little ounce of it out, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pour some of this back into the container, rinse it out, after I've added in the second container of jam. Scoop, pour. Let's see. We'll go ahead and put a cap back on, one of the caps on. Go ahead, shake it up. And pour it in. How good of a job did it do? Well, there's a little bit left. I will go back and get that in there shortly. So let me go ahead and add in a second. All right, that's much better. Now we can go ahead and mix that in. Spoon works, but if you happen to have one of these, let's see how that's doing. I think that did a pretty decent job. All right. The last thing we want to do, while we have the opportunity, is to go ahead and drop in our tea bag, which is going to act as our tannin substitute, which is going to add a little astringency to our wine at the end. Go ahead and put our lid back on, and let's let this come down to room temperature. Now that our grape jam mixture has come down to room temperature, or actually I just let it sit overnight, it's now time to transfer it into our carboy, which has been freshly sanitized. Along with our spoon, we can go ahead and fish out the tea bag. It's done its all. We don't need that anymore. Give us a little stir. And consistency is, I won't say it's thick, but definitely it's got some body to it. Hopefully that'll thin out when we add in our remaining water. Put that off to the side here. And if you have a funnel, go ahead and make use of that. All right, that's enough of that. And since we have the opportunity, let's go ahead and add some extra water that we had left over. Bring the level up just a little bit. About yay high I ought to do it. Remove our file for the moment. Put a cap back on for a moment. I can go ahead and once again remove our cap. Let's reinsert our funnel. And if you have a little mini strainer, been properly cleaned and sanitized, we can now go ahead and add in our lemon juice, which is acting as our acid blend substitute, which is going to provide a little bit of acidity to our wine. Squeeze up that slice in there. done with our funnel for a moment. And let's put our cap back on. Nice and tight. With our cap on nice and tight, I'm going to give it one last good shake. Make sure everything's incorporated. It's now time to go ahead and add in our yeast. I've got another half a teaspoon of bread yeast. And there's no way to sprinkle it around, so we'll just kind of sort of dump it in. Put the cap back on for a moment. And kind of give it a little swirl. You go ahead and begin incorporating it. Now, after sanitizing our airlock, I've taken the opportunity to fill up to the levels with a little bit of water and diluted tar sand. And I'm now going to replace my cap and insert my airlock with Blanc. Airlock's pretty cheap, guys. We're looking at $3, maybe $4 for an airlock, and then you want to get a little number 6 Blanc to go with it. You can find links at Amazon in my description and comment sections as to where you can find it. I am an Amazon affiliate, so just to let you know. Again, the purpose of the airlock is to let CO2 that will be released by the yeast up through the airlock and out, so that you don't build up pressure and keep little bugs from climbing down up in there and ruining your wine. So now that we started making our Concord Grape wine, what do we do next? Well, we want to first of all put this away somewhere where it's dark, preferably cool. Certainly having direct sunlight. And in about a month or two, we might want to consider racking it or transferring it from this carboy into our second carboy to get it off of the dead leaves that will begin developing along the bottom. It's no biggie. If you don't remember the exact time to do it, just whenever, it's fine. Later on, towards the end, we will, if necessary, degas it, which means removing any additional CO2 that might still be incorporated in our wine. We want to back sweeten it if necessary, although in this case, I don't think it's going to be necessary. We then want to bottle it, pasteurize it, cork it, label it, and at some point, drink it. But all of this will take some time. Technically, after 10 days, yeah, it is wine and you can start drinking it. But I generally will wait about a year before I do an official taste testing of this particular wine. So, in about 12 months' time, I will see you in the next video. But until then, please click on that subscribe button. Become a member, become a Patreon. So again, I'll see you in 12 months.